Good evening, everyone. My name is Deepthi Thakur. I am a clinical psychologist and a PhD research scholar at Department of Psychology, Jamia Millia Islamia University. I am here to talk about the caregivers and how to build resilience in caregivers. So basically, when I talk about caregivers, I am here specifying to the parents, to the siblings, to the grandparents, and all the other formal or informal caregivers of children with autism specifically, as well as children with other developmental disorders or any other psychiatric or mental illness. Okay, so the first thing is, what is the need to build resilience in caregivers? So, why is the caregiver population important? So, caregivers are basically very important, as in India, which is a collectivist culture, we live in joint or nuclear families. Mostly we are living in joint or whether nuclear families. So whoever is caring for the child, it is more of the parents or the siblings or grandparents or probably aunts and uncles. And today most of the medical care is shifted to the home, which puts a lot of burden of family members, especially the caregivers. They play an important role in the treatment process of their child, such as the relationship with the medical team and management of both the medications as well as the intervention for their children or the member who is diagnosed with any mental illness. So if I'm talking specifically about the intervention part, so even after having the medicines, even after taking medicines, certain interventions like therapies has to be done at the home end. And there is where the role of the caregivers come. Not only do they help in the process of treatment, but also they offer us and the patient or the child the social support and the kind of interventions they require at home. So it is natural that due to the role of caregiving, the caregivers might also sometimes experience stress, and therefore it is essential to focus on building resilience in caregivers for enhancing their mental health and well-being. So now we will talk about what is exactly resilience. So resilience is basically our ability to adapt and to bounce back when things don't go as we plan them. So basically a resilient person acknowledges the situation, learn from their previous experiences and then move forward. So there are three things here. Firstly, you have to acknowledge the situation. As a caregiver, you have to first acknowledge the situation, accept the situation, then learn from the previous experience, and then move forward. So, resilience is not just about ability to bounce back, but it is also the ability to bounce forward. And this is what is resilience is all about. Now, before we move on, I would first like all of you to take a small resilience test on your own. So now how are we going to do this? I am going to read few statements. You have to listen to these statements very carefully, and once you have all listen to the statement, then you will mark it at the rating scale of 1 to 5 on your own. Okay. So, and you have to keep your scores to yourself. Okay. So, the first, the rating scale goes as like this, that number 1 means strongly disagree and number 5 means strongly agree. Okay. So, 1 means strongly disagree and 5 means strongly agree. Now I'm going to read out the statements. So the first statement is, I am usually optimistic. I see difficulties as temporary and expect to overcome them. So now for this particular statement, you have to rate yourself on the 1 to 5 scale. 1 is strongly disagree and 5 is agree. So like 4 would be agree. Okay. So this is how you have to rate it. So the first statement, again I'm going to repeat. I am usually optimistic. I see difficulties as temporary and expect to overcome them. Okay. Now we go for the second statement. The second statement is, feelings of anger, loss or discouragement doesn't last long. Okay, so the next statement is, feeling of anger, loss, and discouragement doesn't last long. So, for each statement, you can write your score just opposite these statements from 1 to 5 rating scale. 1 is strongly disagree, and 5 is strongly agree. Okay. Then the third statement is I can tolerate high levels of ambiguity and uncertainty about situation. I can tolerate high level of ambiguity and uncertainty about situations. Okay, this is the third statement. Now, the fourth statement is I adapt quickly to new developments. I am curious. I ask questions. So, that is the fourth statement. I adapt quickly to new developments. I am curious. I ask question. Now, the fifth statement is I am playful. I find the humor in rough situations and I can laugh at myself. Okay. Fifth situation is I am playful. I find the humor in rough situations and I can laugh at myself. The next the next statement is I learn valuable lessons from my experience and from the experiences of others. Okay. I learn valuable lessons from my experiences and from the experiences of others. The next statement is I am good at solving problems. I am good at making things work well. Okay. I am good at solving problems. I am good at making things work well. So, this is the next statement. Now, after this, the statement is I am strong and I hold up well during tough times. I am strong and I hold myself or I hold myself well during tough times. And now, the last statement is I have converted misfortune into good luck and found benefits in bad experiences. So now I am sure that all of you must have written down the opposite numbers to each of the statements. 1 is strongly agree and 5 is strongly disagree. And even if you're not able to do it like right now, so you have heard all the statements, you can do the total and then see the scoring. So I am going to tell you what each score means. So if your score is less than 20, then it means low resilience. Okay, so it is always good to see the level of resilience at the moment. Okay, so less than 20 is low resilience. 10 to 30, oh sorry, 20 to 30 is mild level of resilience. 30 to 35 is adequate and 35 above is highly resilient. So now you have got an idea of where do you fall in which category. Okay, so again, if I have to repeat, what does the word resilience means? So resilience is basically a process. So resilience is also our ability to adapt and bounce back when things do not go as we plan. So what we have to do is we have to acknowledge the situation, learn from our previous experience, and then move forward. So this is what resilience means. So, through the definition, we see that there are three main elements of resilience. So, the first element is challenge. We should look at our failures or mistakes as lessons to learn, something from which we can improve in future. And when we are able to tackle these challenges, we become stronger, we become much more resilient as our previous selves. So definitely in the task of caregiving, because we are not very pro at it, I would say, or we there is no particular course of caregiving which we do in order to become a good caregiver. So at this point of time, how we seek challenge and how, okay, so there's a request to repeat. Okay, I'll repeat again. So there are three elements of resilience. The first is challenge. So whatever challenges we are having in life, I'm talking more in terms of the caregivers, because see, even to understand what kind of problem the child has got or your adult person, family member has got, to understand and how to go about it, to take out those resources. So these are all challenging situations. So when you see challenges, do not view themselves the challenges as negative reflections. However, you should try to overcome those challenges firstly through your own resources, and if you're not able to do that, then probably with the help of others, both professional and as well as your other family members or friends. The next element of resilience is commitment. So commitment is only not just restricted to the area of work. Commitment also means commitment in terms of relationships, friendships, and the cause you care about. So basically, the commitment is also a very essential element of resilience. If you have to be resilient, then commitment also counts in. So one has to be committed towards whatever goals they have as a caregiver. Okay. The third thing is the personal control. So whenever we feel that like resilient people spend like most of their time and energy focusing on the situation and events that have control over them. So if you feel that you are helpless, or you're feeling that the situations are not in your control, so at that time you have to first gain confidence and believe in yourself that it is in my personal control, and today, or maybe in some other attempts, in some more attempts, I will be able to gain that personal control in life. And that is where, when you gain the personal control, you become much more resilient than before. Now we will talk about building resilience. How to build resilience. So building resilience in caregivers of children with autism, or whether we are talking about building resilience in adults, the methods or the activities which I'm going to discuss now remains the same. So even if you are not a caregiver, then also you can use these activities to become resilient. Okay. So if I have to explain what is resiliency, resilience is basically a new concept. So resilience is mostly our ability to strike back. Like if I give you an example of an elastic, so elastic or a rubber band, no matter how much stress you pull, no matter how much stress you put on that rubber band, no matter how much you stretch it, it will come back to its original shape. So this is also true for us humans. No matter how much stress the situation puts on us, we drastically change or adapt in the ways and come back to our original self. So that is where resilience counts in. So this is the whole process, how I've explained about the elastic band is what is something which is also true for becoming resilient. Now, the first way of which we are talking about is to change the narrative. Like, for example, when something bad happens, we often relive the event over and over in our heads. So, what we do, we just replay the event over and over again in our head, and because of this process is called rumination, and because of this cognitive spinning of those events again and again in our own mind, we have difficulty in moving forward, or in moving forward towards healing and growth. So, in this kind of situation, what we can do is we can change the narrative. And how are we supposed to do that? We are supposed to practice expressive writing. So, expressive writing can help us to move forward by helping us gain new insight on the challenges of our life. So, what are we supposed to exactly do in this? It involves free writing continuously for about 15 to 20 minutes about the issue, exploring your deepest thought and feelings around it. The goal is to get something down on paper and not to create a memoir like masterpiece. So, what you have to do here is you have to keep writing and writing and writing till the time, like the way of writing is basically how you vent out your emotion. And also, when you are writing something, you can also try changing the narrative. So where you see in your writing portion, where you think, or where you see that the negative things are coming much more in the picture, there you can change your narrative from there. It is very easier to change in the written format. Okay, and that is why I am talking here more about writing. So when you write, what you can do is you can from the place where you can reread it once again, and from the place where you think that now from here, other things can, other positive things can come in the story, you can change the story from that side. And this process of venting out will definitely help you to build resilience. Another way of doing it is to Another way of becoming resilient is to overcome your fears. See, it is easily said than done, but the first step, if you are taking towards overcoming your fear, so the first step is slow and repeatedly expose yourself to the things that scare you. So for example, if you are scared of something, if you are scared of some thought, or if you are scared of some particular thing, that okay, I should not do like this. So the best way to come out of this fear is to gradually expose yourself to that situation. Okay, little by little, step by step, you should expose yourself to that situation. For example, in my OPD practice, if I tell you, I have met some of the parents who throughout their lives have never moved out of their houses, or probably these females are housewives, or they have not been in lot of public speaking forums and all. So in short, what I'm trying to tell is they have not been publicly exposed or public exposure for a very long time. So at just a second. नहीं, live है अभी. So at that point of time, it is very important to understand what is something which is fearful for us, and we have to overcome that fear step by step. You should encourage, we should encourage the person who is the caregiver. If you are a practitioner, if you are a mental health practitioner, then you can encourage them. Or if you are yourself the caregiver or the parent of the child, then you should also try to speak to other people who are in that public speaking domain, and little by little you can expose yourself to that kind of surrounding. So this also helps in building resilience. Now, another way of building resilience is to practice self compassion. Now, self compassion in simple words means how you involve offering compassion to other people, confronting our own suffering with an attitude of warmth and kindness and without judgment. So, this is what we mean by self compassion. So, how should we practice self compassion? To practice self compassion, one should learn to lend as well as take support from other caregivers. And that is what I was exactly talking about when I was speaking about the previous point, overcoming your fears. So, a lot of other caregivers, if you indulge yourself in other groups of like Autism Connect is a wonderful group which offers social support to different caregivers. And if they have any kind of problems or situations which the parents would like to discuss, the caregivers would like to discuss, that gives them a forum. So that is how we are practicing. We are right now also we are practicing self compassion towards each other. So lend and take the support from other caregivers or mental health practitioners. So uh, also in most of the studies who have seen that those caregivers who have been taking social support from others, or who have indulged themselves in mindfulness practice, they have lower depression, anxiety, and stress. So after they have participated in such kind of groups, so these are proper evidence based studies that have taken place in order to prove this aspect. So for self compassion, basically there are three aspects. The first aspect is be mindful. So you have to be mindful without judging or analysis. Notice what you are feeling. So you have to be first mindful about your own feelings. Okay. So whenever you have such kind of situation, you question yourself, or you try to say this to yourself: this is a moment and this will pass. Try to talk yourself in a positive manner, and this will also help you to build resilience. Remember that you are not alone, and that is where the social support helps us a lot. So you have to remember that you are not alone, and we all have some kind of issues which are coming up in our lives someday or the other for various purposes, and all of us are together in this, and we can seek each other's support. We can always take each other's help to overcome any such problems that we face. Also, be kind to yourself. Be very patient with yourself. If someday, if you are not able to, if there's a problem and you're not able to understand the solution or understand the way how you should go about that problem, it is okay. Be patient. Accept that, okay, I might not be able to understand it right now, but probably when I speak to other family members or when I speak to other people of my community, I will definitely get answers to my issue, and I will definitely, they will help me out. So, definitely, please be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself. Do not be angry with yourself. The reason why I am saying this is because only when we, as caregivers or parents, our mental health is good and we are building our mental health, we are building resilience, we are building social support. If our well-being is good, only then we will be able to help our child or help our patient in a very uh, holistic manner. Agar if we are not able to manage our own health, how are we supposed to take care of our children or the person to whom we are the caregiver? And therefore it is much more important to take care of our own health. Another way of building resilience is simple meditation exercises. So simple meditation would help. Simple meditation or practicing mindful meditation would strengthen the frontal lobe. Why I have specified here frontal lobe is because mindfulness, deep breathing also helps us to build our executive functioning. Now, executive functions in very simple words means our cognitive skills. For example, decision making, our judgment, our problem solving ability, which are again very essential for us to in our role of the caregiver. So we require to make decisions for our children, we require to make decisions for the person we are caring for, and that is why we should pay a lot of attention to our own mental health. So practicing mindful meditation also helps us to build our resilience. So it helps people learn to focus on the present moment, which makes it easier to accept negative, positive, or neutral feelings. And this helps to build tolerance and as well as resilience. Another type of method is body scanning meditations. So, how are we supposed to do this body scanning meditations? So, all you need to do is just spend 5 to 10 minutes breathing deeply and slowly and moving your attention from head to toe. So, as you progress, you will notice what you feel both emotionally and physically. So, you have to practice this kind of body scanning meditation. Okay. Also, simple deep breathing would also help you out. So, how should we do the deep breathing? I will explain you this here and now. So, you have to first inhale through your nose, take a deep breath, count mentally in your head till 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale slowly through your mouth. So, while doing this process, you can do it 5 to 7 times at your convenience, whether you're conveniently doing it in the morning or evening, whenever you want to do these exercise. And these kind of deep breathing exercises also helps to stay calm and build resilience. Okay, another way is to appreciate the nature. So little changes in your lifestyle, for example, if you're having tea, so instead of having it in your bedroom or a closed room, if you can, if possible, and you can move towards your balcony or terrace, where you can at least feel the air, where you can at least use all your sensory inputs or at least some of them. So that kind of experience is also very calming to our body and mind. So one should try out these things as well. Another way of building resilience is flexible thinking. So, whenever, how should we do this? So, a very wonderful way of doing flexible thinking is to think in alternatives. For example, suppose there is an issue, there is a problem probably, which we are not able to tackle. And how should we go about it? We are very confused about how should we go about it. So, in this kind of situation, one method which we can use is decision making or decision balancing. So, exactly what we have to do is we have to write down the problem on the paper, and then we have to write the alternatives. Okay, in this situation, for example, if I do this, what could be the other way, or what could be the other alternatives which I might do in the similar situation? For example, suppose if I am angry, what I usually do is probably I pick up a bottle and I throw it, and the bottle breaks. So whenever I'm angry and I do this, so in case I will not do that, that is a maladaptive response. So in case I am not doing that, what could be the other positive or other alternatives way in which I could manage my anger? So you can write other things. Okay, I might just start deep breathing exercise, or I might try to focus my attention towards any other thing. I will try to distract myself, or probably I would close my eyes and try concentrating on the positive things which I like. So these are the kinds of alternatives what we can think of when we are angry. So what are we trying to do in the whole process? We are trying to think flexibly. We are trying to think in alternatives, and that is how we are going to take care of our own mental health and also build resilience. Also, resilience can be built through the power of positivity. Again, this point is very close to the previous point, alternative thinking. So, how do we build positivity in our own self? So, what you can do is you can set aside some minutes to list any 5 thoughts that are currently bothering you. Write them down on a piece of paper, or even you can write on any notebook if you want to. Beside the column where you have listed the negative thoughts, try replacing these negative thoughts with the positive ones. So, in the previous activity, what we have worked on the behavioral level, that if this is my usual way of behaving, I will change my usual way of behaving to the other ways. I can try out the other ways. So that is the behavioral mode of changing something. But this power of positivity, which I'm trying to tell you here, is about how you cognitively change, how you try to replace your thought with the positive ones. So if there are negative thoughts, I am just picking up the negative thoughts which I have heard lot many of time in my OPD from the parents. Could be one of the thought is, why is that, is it something which has happened to us, like why us? So this is the most I would say most repeatedly thought that I have heard in the OPD. So if you have such kind of negative thoughts, try to replace it with the positive ones. Okay. Also, thoughts such as, for example, if there is a thought that I am having a tough time handling my finances, definitely, probably because of the medications, or probably because of the intervention process, which is costly. With all the medical things are costly, mostly we might have this thought as caregivers or as parents, that I have a trouble time, or I have a difficult time manage my finances. How am I able to take care of the finances at the same time manage with the treatment? So what you can replace this thought with positive thoughts like, let me get trying some financial guidance from family or friends. So let me try to get some financial guidance from my family or friends. Or simply you can just say to yourself that I can manage it, like I am managing the all the other things. I can also be able to manage this kind of financial constraint that I am facing right now. Negative thoughts such as I am losing my hold on life. The alternative positive thought can be, I can get back the control. So always remember, when we are talking to ourselves, we should talk ourselves positively, And also, the positivity we are building in ourselves will also reflect in the way we are taking care of our child or any other person for whom we are the caregiver. So, whatever we are building in ourselves, the kind of emotions, the kind of way we are tackling ourselves, also reflects the way in which we are dealing with others in life. Okay. Another way of building resilience is gratitude. Now, gratitude is one of the most powerful emotion, I would say. Now, what we can do is gratitude, when we have to build gratitude, we have to first begin with the thanksgiving. Whatever little things people are doing for us, whatever little things we are getting from other places, we should be thankful. That also builds the positivity in ourselves. So what you can do is you can make a gratitude journal in your notebooks, or probably sometimes mentally also you can think that way. So you can write, I am grateful for. So you can write here 5 goals that you accomplished that particular week, 5 people who had made you happy in that particular meet, to your family because of whatever reasons you feel that they have helped you with. So i so these are the kinds of exercises, this gratitude journal or gratitude yani thanksgiving to other people, this is something which is really going to help out. So you can, what you can do it, you can write it day wise: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like 7 days you can make 7 columns, and you can write these 3 things: 5 goals that I accomplished in this week, 5 people who have made me happy, and I am thankful to my family caregivers or to my family members, because lot many of times our family directly or indirectly are also helping us to become mentally strong, or they are providing us with social support. Another way of being resilient is to evaluate your thought. So this I am going to repeat once more. This is very connected to what I have told you before. So whenever I've asked you to write the stressor, so whenever you are getting any thought which is stressful or distressful in nature, which is really something which triggers the negative emotion. Now, how should we judge whether we have to write this thought or not? So, two characteristics of the thought we have to see. Firstly, that this thought has to be causing distress or causing stress to you. And secondly, this thought which I am talking about is something which triggers negative emotion. Now, when we talk here about negative emotion, it could be stress, it could be anxiousness, it could be sadness. So these kind of negative emotions is something I am talking about. So firstly we have to write the statement which is the stressor, then we have to write the antecedent. The antecedent in simple words means what made it happen, why was that stressor, why did that stressor came into existence. So the antecedent, what has happened, just for which reason that stressor has come up. So that is the antecedent. Then we have to write the behavior, like how I reacted to it. Like I gave you this example of when I am angry and then I pick up the bottle and I throw it. So this is my behavior when I am angry, when I am in stress. So the same way you can also write what is your behavior, how do you react when you are angry. Okay, so antecedent, behavior, and the third thing is consequence. So consequence is what was the effect of my reaction. It is also very important to note down that what was the effect of your reaction. So suppose I have just threw the bottle, it means that I have lost that bottle forever, I have broken it. Okay, so the consequence is that I have broken the bottle. Sometimes, now this is something for the bottle, key bottle has been broken, but sometimes what we do is, in order to take out our anger, we sometimes shout on others. We sometimes shout on the child, probably that could also happen in some of the instances. Like, I am not saying that people do it on purpose, but sometimes, even when we are not consciously aware of it, even in a lot of anger, we tend to do that sometimes. So that is why it is very important to understand our thoughts. And consequence here also means how to change the action or the behavior. So, two ways, as I have initially explained, both the ways, like to change the behavior, you can also list down the adaptive behavior and try the alternative behavior. Or the second way of doing it is through thoughts. So, if you have some kind of thoughts which are negative in nature, you can replace those thoughts with the positive ones. Also, we can use a technique of guided imagery. For example, if you are feeling very stressful of, or if there are something which you feel that okay, this is something which is causing any kind of negative emotion in me, you can just simply close your eyes and imagine all the good things that has happened in the past, or try to guide yourself, try to mentally guide yourself towards any place probably which you have visited or which you really like about. For example, you can self instruct yourself that I'm closing my eyes, and if, for example, if you like mountains, and now I'm going to visualize those beautiful lush mountains which I have been to, and this is the thing I enjoy. That kind of guided imagery you can do for yourself, and it will definitely help you out as well. Another thing is to learn to be assertive and create change. So, also, this learning to be assertive is very important when we are talking about building resilience. So, there is a very thin line, I would say, and there is a very clear cut distinction between aggressiveness and assertiveness. So, whenever you want to put your point across, it is not important that you do it aggressively. Most of the time, as caregivers, what happen is that we lose our calm very fast, and we become aggressive, and we just cross that line between aggressiveness and assertiveness. So when you have to talk assertively, you can say your point in a very passive and in a very assertive manner, which means that your point should go across, what you feel should go across, but at the same time, it should not trigger the anger in your own self as well in the other person. Okay, for example, if you are unhappy with something someone has done at work, or someone has done which is something not acceptable to you, then the aggressive person will say, I have told you 100 times that I wouldn't put up with this. Get on with it. Okay. While somebody who's an assertive person might say, I need to talk to you about how we can work together more efficiently. So, have you seen how the sentences has changed? Definitely, if you say it in the second way, I will repeat it. The second way is, I need to talk to you about how we can work together more effectively. Definitely, if you try this kind of statement, if you try saying this kind of statement, it will keep you calm, and at the same time, it will try to bring out a more adaptive alternative to the situation, because you have saved yourself from the negative emotion of probably stress or anger, and your brain could function when you are calm and alert. Your brain could function more positively, and your alternatives, whatever alternatives you have to take out, that all those alternatives also you will be able to take out very fast. So you can, your processing speed will become much faster when you use these kinds of methods, when you start thinking positively. See, initially what happens is, initially it takes us little time to change our way of thought. But with practice over time, this becomes an automatic process. So, might be initially to try out these points, I would really suggest that you can at least try out some of these points. Initially, it will be a little difficult to get into the rhythm, but as you start practicing, whether it is mindfulness, whether it is mindfulness meditation, whether it is how to replace the negative statement with the positive, negative thought with the positive one, once you start practicing, this will become an automatic process. You will be able to do it on your own without anybody's help. Moving on to the next methods of building resilience, we will talk about cultivating our hobbies. It is very important to explore your passions. So, make a list of all the things that you have enjoyed in the past, and probably you have stopped doing it for whatsoever reason. right now. You have stopped doing those things. So make the list of your passions or anything that interests you, and in your timetable or whatever you do throughout the day, try to imbibe those things. So even if you're not able to do them every single day, you can at least do them twice or thrice a week, or probably over the weekends. So that is also a very essential point to maintain your well-being, to maintain or to build resilience. Okay, so spend time doing what you love to do. Invest some time in positive thinking, reading inspirational theories or stories, or cooking, or anything which you enjoy to do. So what I am trying to put across right now through this point is that do something that you enjoy the most, because probably of our schedule, which becomes very very, I would say, rigid, because of our work occupation, as well as sometimes because of the role of the caregivers also, because we constantly have to be there for our child, or we constantly have to be there for the person we are caring for. So that sometimes we are left with very little time for our own selves, and we lose all the activities, all the fun loving activities which we used to do earlier. So now you can do one thing, you can list them down, you can start with those activities again by step 1, step 2, in slow steps. So for one activity 1 week also you can try. And also if possible, and your probably your child and the person you are caring for, or other family member or friend who are interested in these activities as well, you can also include them, and you can take feedback about these activities and discuss with them, which would again be very very helpful to build resilience. Another way is to find balance. And this is what I was talking about when I was talking about striking a balance between our professional and personal life. And also, people who are not working professionally, maybe striking a balance between their role of the caregiver and their personal self and self care. So sometimes the role of the caregiver becomes so overwhelming, it becomes so much in nature that we forget taking care of our own self. And there that is the point when our physical or mental health deteriorate. So from a lot of narratives that I have spoken to a lot of caregivers, I found that they compromise on their eating pattern, on their sleeping pattern, on their socializing with other people. And that, if this is not stopped, or probably if this is not managed over a long period of time, they will themselves themselves become, I would say, some kind of mental illness would crop in, or some kind of issues might crop in themselves. And therefore it becomes very important that we manage both our physical and mental health together. So finding a balance. So how do you find a balance? So there should be at least some me time. This me time could be as short as 30 minutes, 1 hour, or it could be as long as you can afford to spend that me time. But it is very essential, whatever me time you can take out, even if it is at least once or twice a week, you can take out that me time. Catch up with your old friends or other extended family members. So everybody has their own important role to play in our lives. A husband's role is different, a parent's role is different, a child's role is different, a friend's role is different. So everybody has their own particular groups, so nobody substitutes for the other person. So therefore it is also very essential that you take this point of spending time with all the important people in your life, and everybody has their different ways of providing social support to you. Also cultivate optimism, be hopeful and be optimistic. So anytime if you feel there is a negative emotion, what you have to do is you have to speak yourself in a positive manner. And only when you are positive about things, only then the alternatives will, you will also be able to see many more alternatives. Okay, another way of building resilience is to exercise. Okay, so when you exercise, I am here, I am not talking about mindfulness, breathing, and all. Here, I am talking about exercise which makes you tired, and which leads to sweating. So that kind of exercise, when we do, those exercises play a very important role in raising some of the neurotransmitters. Okay, so why is it important to raise those neurotransmitters which I am talking about? Or neurotransmitters are basically some chemicals in our brain which are responsible for our mood. Okay, so these running, doing yoga, doing any exercise which is physically exhausting, so even if you can take out around 15-20 minutes of your daily routine, it is great. So that kind of exercise is very important to manage stress. When we increase these chemicals or dopamine, or happy hormones, in very simple words, if we increase these happy hormones, or these kind of neurotransmitters in our brain, it also helps us to build resilience and be positive. So this is also very important. Another thing which here we can talk about is regularly forgiving yourself. It is very, very important to not hold the grudges and regrets. Maybe over the period of time, we are trying something or the other, you know, very, very importantly, we are trying something or the other. Okay, this should happen anyhow. And we have tried all the possible ways to make that work, whether it is related to our child's, or probably the person we are caring for, whether it is related to their treatment, or whether it is related to any other method which we have tried a lot of times, or probably sometimes, I would also say sometimes when we are meeting the doctors, or probably meeting the professionals, or other kind of people, they might not behave in a very good manner with us sometimes. I am saying not with all, it doesn't happen with all the people all the times, but probably sometimes some of the caregivers have also narrated these kinds of experiences to me, that the doctors have not been very understanding, or they have not explained us in a very good manner, probably because of their busy schedules and all. Sometimes the doctors are might not be able to explain, and that is why they hold grudges. Sometimes as caregivers we become very negative about the whole situation. Okay, we are not going to visit this doctor again, or we are not going to visit this hospital again. So that kind of things starts coming in. So so when such kind of things come in, and when this negativity comes in again, we are more prone to go towards the anxiety. And then again, it is very important to forgive yourself for the past. Sometimes I have also seen parents or caregivers blaming themselves, that why have there been a delay at their end to identify the symptoms of the person's problem, or why sometimes they start blaming themselves for the whole thing which has happened. So when such if there are such kind of thoughts, then you have to think about forgiving yourself about whatever has happened in the past, and give yourself permission to move forward. And this is what the whole concept of resilience is, that not only do we have to bounce back, not only do we have to fight the current stressful situation, but we also have to move forward. The beauty of the whole concept lies in the area when it explains about moving forward. So that is how it is helpful. Okay, so in contrast, deliberately forgiving yourself, you have to move forward. Try to get into the habit of following any time you are disappointed with yourself. So whenever you are disappointed with yourself for whatsoever reason, you have to forgive yourself and progress, move forward towards any new thing. Okay, now there are I am going to explain two simple activities which you can do to build resilience. So now these activities you can do with your children, or you can do with your family members, or you can do on your own also. So these I would really suggest that you try these two activities, and also let me know whether these activities work for you or not in the comment section, maybe later on. So the first activity is find something funny. Okay, so here what you have to do is, we in lot of instances, or probably evidence based also, we have seen that laughter is very important, and laughter has been found to boost resilience. Okay, so what you have to do in the activity is, you have to spend 10 minutes each day for 7 days, doing the following things which I'm going to tell you now. Okay, so the first thing is write down the three of the funniest things you have experienced, seen, or heard that day. Okay, so you can simply make a list of three funny things which you have either experienced, seen, or heard. And if you have not experienced or seen or heard any three things, you can write one or two at least. Okay, and providing details and note how they made you feel. If you can't think of anything, do an online search of funny stories. Okay, you can do this also, that you can do an online search of funny stories, and social media could again be a good source for funny material. Okay, so you have to write down three things which are funny in nature, which you have experienced, seen, or heard. Secondly, what you can do is you can write down why you found it funny. The more specific you are, the more effective this exercise will be. So you have to also write down that why did you find that particular incident funny. Okay, so this is something which you have to note down. The third thing is write these funny things at the end of your day. So at the end of your day, when you have finished with all your work and responsibility, then your or in your me time, I would say, you should sit and you should write these funny ways. So why am I asking you to do this activity is because when when naturally, when we are reading something funny or we come across some funny situation, that triggers the happiness component in us, and that is very good for our positive mental well-being. Okay, the other activity is to find a silver lining. So this activity's name is find a silver lining. So even whenever there is a negative situation, or even when there is something which is going out of hand at that particular moment, okay, so at that time you have to curb yourself or try in that situation to look at the brighter side. So what happens when we look at the bright side? I understand that when such situation arises, practically it is very difficult to look at the bright side. But again, as I have stated earlier also, that once we program our brain to look towards the bright side, to think in alternatives, all these things become a automatic process. So what we have to, the initial days, the first step, or I would say the hard work in the initial time, would only be to inculcate, remember these activities, try putting them in your schedule so that they help you in this way. So looking at the bright side is scientifically proven to enhance our resilience. So think about an upsetting experience you all have recently. It could be a small example. For example, sometimes if I have to tell you my example, it could be my kids missed the bus in this morning. So rather than focusing on the frustration of the experience, reflect on three positive things about it. Maybe it offers you time to have that special talk with your child on the way to school, or allow you to see the sunrise from the different place. So if some situation like this happens, that the child has missed the bus in the morning, and you are really probably angry. Most of the parents, or in this situation, what would be the most appropriate response would be that we are angry about it, or we are stressful about it, that how is my child going to reach school. So in that kind of situation, try to think in different alternatives, or try to offer yourself a to see a brighter picture. So you can think it in a different manner, that you can think that, okay, if I drop my child to the school, I will get little more some time to discuss or spend time with my child on the way to school, or probably we'll stop in between, and we will enjoy something which we haven't for a very long time, or which we haven't ever enjoyed. So the way we look at the situations is something which helps us. So there I am going to end this Facebook Live now. I hope all the methods that I have explained, I have discussed in today's Facebook Live, you will try any of these methods, or at least even if you try two or three of these methods, it is going to work wonderfully. Whether you are choosing to spend a brief, a little bit of recap, I would like to do for you, for all of the parents and caregivers listening to me right now. Firstly, what you only if I have to choose five things or five things to remember would be: firstly, pay attention to your own self. Try to take out that me time, whether you would like to read in that me time, or whether you like to do any of the activities which you might have stopped because of all the roles and responsibility. Try to write down that point and do it once or twice a week, or whenever the time allows. So cultivate your hobbies, find the balance, strike the balance between your work, your the role, your other roles, all the roles which you are playing. So the balance between all the roles that all of us are playing. So it's very important to strike a balance between these roles. Also, the way we are working with our emotions, the way we are working with our thoughts. So whenever you have a negative thoughts, either try thinking in alternatives, or try replacing the negative thought with the positive one. The fourth point would be to build your social support. So even if a lot of people say that we don't have a social support, it is important to build the social support. You don't have it, it's okay. You can, even that four friends, even a smaller group is social support, provides social support. And also forgiving yourself. It is very, very important to forgive yourself. Mistakes happen from everybody. Whenever we are trying to do anything new, whenever we are trying to do something which we haven't done before, challenges, we are trying to take up challenges, definitely we are going to make mistakes. But what we have to do is we have to learn from our mistakes. Don't get disheartened, or even if we are getting disheartened, get disheartened for like very smaller duration of time, and then forgive ourselves and move forward. So it's, I would like to sign off here, stating that please take care of your own self. As parents and caregivers, it is very important for us to first take care of our own self, our physical as well as our mental well being. And then you would see that there is a change in the way we are caring for all the people we are caring for, including our children as well as other family members, and as well as if we have some patient. Okay. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure connecting to all of you through this medium. Thank you and bye.